It was supposed to be just another hearing. Small courtroom. Late afternoon, the kind of case clerks yawned through. But when Mrs. Evelyn Cole, a 52-year-old widow in a simple black suit, stepped up to the plaintiff's table, the whispers began immediately. Her late husband, Richard Cole, had been a wealthy real estate investor, and she was, as some called her behind her back, the charity wife. The room buzzed with quiet judgment. 2 rows back, Richard's nephews, Mark and Trevor, smirked openly. They wore tailored suits, expensive watches, and the smug look of men who thought money confirmed bloodline. Evelyn didn't look at them. She clutched her small black purse, the same one she carried to church every Sunday, and stood straight. The opposing attorney, a young man with too much confidence and not enough experience, leaned toward his clients and whispered loud enough for her to hear. "This'll be quick. She has no prenup, no claim, no clue." The judge entered. Everyone rose. Evelyn kept her eyes down, breathing slow. Her husband had not yet been read. That was part of today's motion. But the nephews had already filed an injunction to exclude her from any inheritance, claiming she manipulated an elderly man. The judge adjusted her glasses. "Mrs. Cole," she said gently, "you're representing yourself?" "Yes, Your Honor," Evelyn replied softly. Mark laughed under his breath. The judge gave him a warning look. "Proceed," the judge said. Evelyn walked to the center, papers trembling slightly in her hand. "I was married to Richard Cole for 17 years, she began. "We built a home together. I stood by him through his illness. His nephews hadn't visited in over a decade." Trevor leaned forward and muttered, "That's because you blocked his calls, lady." Evelyn didn't react. Their lawyer stood. "Your Honor, the plaintiff has no proof of her marriage beyond certificate. She was never on any business documents. My clients have every legal right to his estate." The judge nodded. "We'll review the documents." Evelyn sat quietly as her side paraded bank statements, company filings, photos of charity galas, all without her. Every piece of evidence looked like absence. Every smirk from the nephews looked like a verdict. By the end of the hour, even the clerk avoided her eyes. When the judge finally spoke, her tone was cautious. "Mrs. Cole, until the executor releases the official will, I cannot make a ruling in your favor. I advise you to seek counsel." Mark chuckled out loud this time. "Guess you should have thought of that before chasing a millionaire," he muttered. The judge slammed her gavel once. "Mr. Cole, enough." But the damage was done. Evelyn gathered her papers, nodded to the judge, and walked out, silent, straight-backed, and proud. Behind her, she heard the nephews laughing. "See you at the state auction, Annie." Trevor called. She didn't turn around. She didn't need to, because she knew something none of them did. The will had already been read, just not to them. 2 weeks later, the Cole Estates conference room overflowed with reporters, relatives, and attorneys. The executor, a gray-haired lawyer named Mr. Franklin, stood at the head of the long oak table with a sealed envelope. Everyone expected a show. Evelyn sat at one end of the room. Same black suit, same quiet presence. Her hands were folded neatly on her lap. Mark leaned toward his brother. "She's wasting her time. Uncle probably left her a sympathy check." Mr. Franklin cleared his throat. "This is the last will and testament of Mr. Richard James Cole." Silence. He broke the seal. "To my nephews, Mark and Trevor Cole, I leave each the sum of $1. A collective gasp rippled through the room. Mark shot up. "What kind of joke is this?" Mr. Franklin didn't look up. "To my wife, Evelyn Grace Cole, I leave all holdings, assets, and control of Cole Real Estate Group, as well as sole authority over my philanthropic trust." For a moment, the room went still. Then the laughter started. Not hers, theirs. Disbelief and bitterness tangled together. Mark slammed his palm on the table. "She tricked him. This is fraud." The lawyer's tone sharpened. This was notarized under federal supervision. Mr. Cole anticipated this challenge. He recorded a statement for this room. He pressed play on a small audio recorder. Richard's voice filled the room. Older, weaker, but clear. "If you're hearing this, I'm gone. I leave my estate to Evelyn because she stayed when all of you left. When I lost everything, She kept my name alive. You mocked her because she didn't belong to your world, but she gave me peace. That's worth more than any property you'll ever inherit. Silence. Evelyn blinked once. No tears, no gloating. Just quiet grace. Mark sat back, stunned. Trevor's face drained of color. Mr. Franklin looked around. Are there any objections backed by legal evidence? None. He nodded. Then, as of this moment, Mrs. Evelyn Grace Cole is the sole heir and controller of the Cole estate. The reporters scribbled like wildfire. Cameras flashed. Evelyn stood. Her voice was steady. My husband believed in rebuilding, not revenge. I intend to keep every employee, continue every project, and start a new scholarship for young women in law. Even the judge, watching from the back row, smiled faintly as the nephews were escorted out by security. Evelyn paused by the doorway. She turned slightly, her voice calm but firm. You laughed at me when I stood alone in court, but you'll remember my name every time you see it on a building you used to think was yours. Then she walked out, head high, past the flashing cameras, into the bright Manhattan afternoon. Never underestimate quiet dignity. Some people walk away silently because they already know what's coming. He thought he could humiliate her and walk away untouched. But when the same widow became the CEO signing his paycheck, the tables flipped faster than he could file a motion. Now, every courtroom whisper and arrogant smirk has turned into silence because the woman he laughed out of court just became his employer. And when he finds out what the widow's clause and her husband's will really means, it won't just cost him his job. It'll expose everything he's been hiding behind his title. Never mock the powerless. Some people are only quiet because they're already holding your future in their hands. The marble floors of the Cole Estate headquarters clicked under polished shoes as Jonathan Raines, corporate attorney, strode through the lobby. Last time he saw this building, he was mocking a woman in a courtroom, a widow he promised to teach a legal lesson. Now he was walking back in, contract in hand, thinking he was here to save her new company. He didn't realize he was a lesson. Evelyn Cole sat in the corner office that once belonged to her late husband. Same glass walls, same Manhattan skyline. But now, her name was on the brass plate by the door. When Jonathan entered, he smiled like a man who thought charm could erase memory. Mrs. Cole, he said smoothly, congratulations on the inheritance. I understand you'll need counsel familiar with corporate restructuring. Evelyn looked up from her papers, calm, collected. Mr. Raines, she interrupted. The same attorney who laughed at me in court 2 months ago? He chuckled lightly. Strictly professional. I assure you, just courtroom theatrics. She closed a folder in front of her. Sit. He obeyed, still grinning. She slid a document across the table. A thick contract labeled employment agreement. Cole Holdings Legal Division. You're offering me a job? He asked, surprised. No, she said. You're already employed. My late husband left a clause in his will. The widow's clause. You might want to read it. Jonathan flipped through the pages. His smile faded. The clause stated that any attorney who represented the opposing side against Evelyn Cole during the probate process will be legally retained as counsel under her ownership for 1 full fiscal year, with no option to resign until the term expired. He blinked. This is ridiculous. You can't force an attorney into employment. It's already filed, she replied. Signed, notarized, and approved by the state. You're on my payroll until next September. He laughed nervously. So what, you're my boss now? Not just your boss, she said, standing. Your compliance officer. The silence was cold enough to echo. He straightened his tie. Well, then let's make the best of it. That's the plan, she said, starting with a little audit. Over the next month, Jonathan watched his confidence shrink under the weight of paperwork stamped internal investigation. Evelyn never raised her voice. She never gloated. But every morning, another file landed on his desk. Contract he drafted for Richard Cole's nephews. Hidden asset transfers and billing irregularities signed under his name. One afternoon, she walked into his office holding a slim folder. Recognize this? He did. It was a side agreement he'd drawn up to help Mark Cole sell company assets before the will was executed. That was business, he muttered. That was fraud, she corrected quietly. And your own signature confirms it. He sank into his chair. You're going to destroy my career. No, she said. You already did. I'm just filing the paperwork. The next morning, the company's compliance board convened. Cameras flashed. Reporters whispered. Evelyn presented everything. Neatly organized, evidence labeled. When it was Jonathan's turn to speak, he couldn't find words. Mr. Raines, the chairwoman said, this material shows deliberate malpractice. You'll be referred to the state bar for disciplinary review. He looked toward Evelyn, desperate. Please, don't do this. She met his eyes with calm dignity. You laughed when I stood alone in court. You said I didn't understand the law. Turns out, I understood it better than you did, especially the part that protects people like me. The verdict was unanimous. Suspension, investigation, reputation, gone. As Jonathan packed his briefcase, Evelyn stopped him at the door. You know, she said softly, my husband told me revenge wastes energy, but accountability? She smiled faintly. That restores balance. He left without replying. Outside, reporters swarmed. Mrs. Cole, was this personal? One shouted. She paused on the courthouse steps. The same one she once walked down humiliated. No, she said. This was justice, written in fine print. She walked toward her waiting black sedan, the same car that once drove her away in tears, and closed the door behind her. The city lights reflected on the window like quiet applause. Never mock the powerless. Contracts end, but character doesn't. The people you dismiss today may already have the paperwork that decides your tomorrow.